Good morning, students. Yesterday we have learned about Bernoulli's principle, right? And the Bernoulli's principle statement is that for an incompressible, non-viscous, steady flow of fluid, the sum of pressure, kinetic energy per unit volume, and potential energy per unit volume remains constant. This is in accordance with conservation of energy. Okay. Now we will learn special cases of Bernoulli's principle. What happens first? If the both heights are same, means suppose the flow is taking place through horizontal pipe. If the flow is taking place through horizontal pipe, first place. Through horizontal pipe with different cross-sectional area as we have considered yesterday. If the pipe is horizontal, then the height from the ground will be same. H1 is equal to H2. Then the potential energy difference becomes 0. When the potential energy difference becomes 0, the Bernoulli's principle becomes P1 plus half rho V1 square plus rho G H1 is equal to P2 plus half rho V2 square plus rho G H2. This is the Bernoulli's principle. So since H1 is equal to H2, you can take rho G H1 as same as rho G H2. So rho G H1 cancels with rho G H1. So potential energy difference becomes 0. As a result, we can write therefore P1 minus P2, pressure difference P1 minus P2 becomes half rho V1 square minus V2 square. P1 minus P2 is equal to half rho V2 square minus V1 square. So this is the equation for a flow through horizontal pipe. Second thing is if the fluid is at rest, suppose the fluid is not in motion, if the fluid is at rest, means if the flow of fluid is at 0 velocity, then V1 is equal to V2 is equal to 0. If the fluid is at rest in the pipe, then kinetic energy term will not be there. Difference in kinetic energy becomes 0. V1 equal to V2 equal to 0. As a result, you can see this equation. This term will not be there. That implies P1 plus rho G H1 is equal to P2 plus rho G H2. Therefore, this implies P1 minus P2, the difference in pressure is equal to rho G H2 minus H1. Rho G H2 minus H1, which is same as the one which we have studied earlier. If you take H2 minus H1 as H, if H2 minus H1 is taken as H and P2 minus P1, the difference is taken as P, then we got the gauge pressure. If you remember, we got the same equation, P is equal to H rho G, which we got it earlier. The same equation. Okay. These are the special cases of Bernoulli's principle. Now let us learn the limitations of Bernoulli's principle. Limitations. Limitations of Bernoulli's principle. The first one, it is applicable for only incompressible fluids where the density does not change. Only it is applicable for incompressible fluids. Second thing is that the flow of fluid must be steady. If the flow of fluid is unsteady or turbulent, then the Bernoulli's principle is not valid, because when the flow of fluid is turbulent, there will be a lot of variations in the pressure. Therefore, Bernoulli's principle is not applicable for unsteady or turbulent flow. Bernoulli's principle is not valid for unsteady or turbulent flow. Means it is applicable only for steady flow. Only for steady streamlined flow. Second thing, when the flow takes place through the different cross-section area as you are drawn earlier, when the flow takes place, you see these are the streamlines which we have drawn earlier. We did not consider any frictional flow. When the liquid is flowing through this, let it be incompressible liquid itself, when it is flowing through this, then there will be friction between the flow of fluid with the container, with the pipe. There is a friction between the layer of fluid with the solid surface. And also there will be friction between the layers themselves. This kind of force of opposition between the liquid layers themselves is called as viscous force. So we did not take into account of the viscous force at all. So naturally, whenever there is a flow of fluid through a pipeline of different cross-section area, there will be always a kind of frictional force or viscous force. Frictional force is with the solid surfaces. Viscous force is the opposition, force of opposition between the liquid layers themselves. That is called as viscous force. So when there is a viscous force, part of kinetic energy is lost in overcoming this frictional force. Part of kinetic energy is utilized in overcoming this viscous force and frictional force. So some amount of energy is lost. So that was not being taken into account. Therefore, we need to mention here, this principle is applicable only for non-viscous fluids. Non-viscous fluids means those fluids which do not have viscosity. So this principle holds good for non-viscous. In common term, we can say non-viscous means thin liquid which do not have any viscosity, which do not have any friction through the pipeline. So this holds good for non-viscous and incompressible steady flow of fluid. It means, this implies it is not applicable for viscous fluids, thick fluids. So we can say, what is viscosity? viscous force. Viscous force is the force of drag or opposition. Force of drag or force of opposition, like friction. Like friction between the layers of flowing fluids. Between the layers of flowing fluids themselves, there is a viscous drag. There is a opposition, force of opposition for the flow. That is called as viscous force, and this phenomenon is called as viscosity. So for viscous fluids, the Bernoulli's principle is not valid. Okay, these are the limitations of Bernoulli's principle. Okay, the Bernoulli's principle has got number of applications. Now we will learn these applications one by one. Okay. Let us learn the first application of Bernoulli's principle, measuring the speed of efflux. Speed of efflux. First of all, what is the meaning of efflux? Efflux means fluid outflow. The fluid which is flowing out, we call it as efflux. What is the speed with which the fluid flows out? That is what we are going to measure. Consider a huge tank which is filled with some liquid of density rho. Let this be of density rho, which is at a height y1 from the bottom. The level of liquid in this container. This is a tank or a container. Now here it is closed container. As a result, suppose the liquid is of height y1 and liquid is at height y2, and y1 is the height at which there is a hole. There is a hole, so that the liquid can flow through this hole. This is of a small opening. The hole is of small opening of area of cross section A1, and the area of this surface of the liquid at the top is A2. A2 is very much large compared to A1, as it is seen from the diagram. Now, we will be able to measure this V1 with the help of Bernoulli's principle. What is the speed with which the fluid flows out can be measured with the help of Bernoulli's principle. So for that, we know using equation of continuity, if V1 is the speed with which the fluid flows out and V2 is the speed with which the fluid comes down, then using equation of continuity, A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. Here, using equation of continuity, A1 V1 equal to A2 V2. Therefore, we want to measure V1. This implies V1 is equal to A2 V2 by A1. A2 by A1 into V2. So this is the speed of efflux, speed of outflow. That is what we call it as speed of efflux. Now this can be measured with the help of the pressure differences. Let P be the pressure on top of the liquid surface. Let P be the pressure on top of the liquid surface, which is taken as P2, and P1 be the pressure at the small opening, where the fluid flows out, and this P1 is open to air. Therefore, the P1 is nothing but atmospheric pressure. Then we can write the Bernoulli's principle. Y1 is the height of this opening, small opening from the bottom. Y2 is the height from this bottom up to this level of water. So we can write the equation P1 plus half rho V1 square plus rho G Y1 because height is Y1 here. Height is Y1 here. Yes, this is P1. P1, this is of cross section area A1, and the speed with which the fluid flows is V1, right? So P1 plus half rho V1 square plus rho G Y1 is equal to P2 plus half rho V2 square plus rho G Y2. This is Bernoulli's principle. Now substitute the values of P1 and P2. Here P1 is taken as container pressure. P1 is taken as atmospheric pressure, not container pressure. P1 is the atmospheric pressure. That is, this opening is towards the open area, that is atmosphere. Therefore, P1 is equal to PA and P2 is equal to P. You can say container pressure. Container pressure. So this turns out to be PA plus half rho V1 square plus rho G Y1 is equal to P plus half rho V2 square plus rho G Y2. Same thing I have done in terms of PA and P. Okay. Now we can write the pressure difference. Our task is to find out V1. When the liquid level is very high and level of liquid is very high and the surface A2 is very much large, surface area A2 is very much large compared to A1, then the velocity with which the liquid flows down is negligible compared to the velocity of outflow. If A2 is very much large compared to A1 and V2 is very much less compared to V1, V2 can be ignored. V2 is going to be negligible. So using this, we can now write, if you leave this, then you are left with half rho P1 square is equal to P minus PA plus rho G Y2 minus Y1. Rho G Y2 minus Y1. Let us take this Y2 minus Y1 as H. This height Y2 minus Y1 is H. So if Y2 minus Y1 is H, so that we can write rho G H or H rho G, and here we want to find out V1 square. Therefore V1 square becomes 2 times P minus PA divided by rho plus rho G H. Y2 minus Y1 is H. rho GH by rho into 2 times rho GH by rho, so that rho cancels here. Thus we get V1 square is equal to this equation. But we want V1. Therefore, V1 is equal to square root of square root of 2 times P minus PA divided by rho plus 2GH This is the equation of outflow. This is also called as equation for speed of efflux. This is the equation for speed of efflux. Now there are two cases in this. If the container pressure P is very high, if P, container pressure, is very high compared to atmospheric pressure, then GH, 2GH can be ignored. So if 2GH is ignored, you are left with only V1 is equal to square root of 2P by rho. So that equation is the equation of fluid outflow in the case of rocket propulsion. In the case of rocket propulsion, the container pressure P is very much high compared to the pressure with which the fluid flows out, the pressure at which the fluid outflows. So in that case, GH, 2GH is ignored. 2GH is going to be negligibly small. So you are left with Vn is equal to square root of 2P minus Pa upon rho. So I will write here this. If is very large compared to PA, then square root of 2GH term is negligible. Then the equation becomes V1 is equal to square root of 2P minus PA upon rho. This second term is neglected. So this is happening for a speed of efflux in case of rocket propulsion. Where the fuel is filled with a very high pressure, and the rate at which the fluid flows out will be given by fluid of the speed of efflux is equal to 2P minus Pa upon rho. Okay. Now when it goes out of reach of the atmospheric pressure, then Pa will also be negligibly small. Then you will be left with only square root of 2P by rho, where rho is the density of the fluid that is taken, density of the liquid fluid. Now second one is Torricelli's law. Now let us see the second important case. If the liquid surface is open to atmosphere, then if the upper surface is open to atmosphere, then the container pressure will be same as atmospheric pressure. Both the smaller opening through which the liquid outflows and the upper surface of the liquid, they are both exposed to atmosphere. Then P is equal to Pa. In that case, the first term in the equation will be 0. So then the speed of efflux V1 becomes equal to square root of 2GH, because P minus Pa becomes 0. So you are left with only 1, that is square root of 2GH. Now look at this equation. This equation is the same as that of an object which is falling freely from a certain height h under the free fall. We have studied earlier, when an object is dropped from certain height h, falling freely under height h under the gravity, then the speed with which it touches the ground is square root of 2gh, because when it is dropped from certain height, its initial speed is 0 and final speed with which it touches the ground surface will be v equal to square root of 2gh. We have learnt. So this is the final speed of freely falling body. Free fall body. Final speed of free fall motion. This itself is called as Torricelli's law. Torricelli's law, which states that when the upper surface of the liquid is open to the atmosphere, then the speed with which the liquid flows out is equal to the speed of freely falling body from a certain height h. So that is what we call as Torricelli's law. The speed of reflux that is the speed of outflow is equal to the speed of free fall motion or speed of freely falling body from height h. So this is the Torricelli's law. Okay. Now this is the first application of Bernoulli's principle. Next we will learn very important venturimeter. Venturimeter is a device which is used to measure the which is also application of Bernoulli's principle. Now the second application is very important device called as venturimeter. Venturimeter is a device to measure the flow of incompressible fluid. The flow of incompressible fluid. The speed with which the flow of incompressible fluid can be measured with the help of a device called as venturimeter, which again depends on the principle of Bernoulli, that is Bernoulli's principle. It consists of a tube with a broad diameter having a small constriction in the middle. It's a tube with a broad diameter, you can see here, having a small constriction in the middle, and here also it is having broad diameter. Let the area of this broad diameter be A, capital A, and the area of this small constriction be small a, and this is attached with a U-tube manometer. U-tube manometer. One arm of this U-tube manometer is connected close to broad opening, and another arm is connected to the small constriction, as you can see here. And this U-tube manometer is filled with liquid with high density like mercury. Liquid with high density like mercury. Let the density of this liquid be rho m. This is a liquid with high density. Like mercury, Hg. Before any flow takes place through this broad neck, broad opening, the level of mercury in this U-tube manometer is same. The pressure difference is 0. So both the arms are exerted by same pressure because it is open to air. Now the liquid, the incompressible fluid whose speed is to be measured, is allowed to flow through this. it is allowed to flow through this. Let V1 be the speed with which the liquid flows through. I am drawing the streamlines. Again, as I said you, this should be steady flow. Okay. So let V1 be the velocity, V1 be the speed with which the liquid enters at broader neck of area capital A, and when it enters through neck narrower constriction here, naturally the field lines, the streamlines are crowding. The spacing between the streamlines is decreased. So let the speed here be V2. Let the speed be V2. So naturally the speed of the fluid, the same fluid, passing through this small constriction will be larger than the speed with which it enters through broad opening. So here V2 will be greater than V1. That is evident from the spacing between the field lines, the spacing between the streamlines. The spacing between the streamlines is very less. They are crowding here, so naturally speed is more. And by using the equation of continuity also we can verify. A V1 is equal to small a V2 using the equation of continuity. You see here a V1, capital A V1 is equal to small a V2. Therefore, V2 is definitely greater than V1. V2 is equal to a V1 by small a. Thus, V2 is greater than V1. Let the pressure entering here, the pressure of the fluid entering here be P1. So, when the speed changes here, the pressure let it be P2. Let P2 be the pressure here. Definitely, the pressure P2 decreases. Right? So, when the fluid flows with a very high speed, the pressure of the fluid decreases because it is passing through small constriction. When the pressure decreases here, there is a pressure difference. P1 is going to be greater than P2. As a result, there is a difference in pressure that can be observed by the increase in the level of the mercury column. So, this will exert a pressure on this liquid column. So, you will find the decrease in the level of mercury in this first arm and increase in the level of mercury in the second arm. Mercury level differs. Right? So, let us take this difference in mercury level. Suppose this is A, this is B. So, let us take this height AB as equal to H. So, this difference in pressure P1 minus P2 is measured as H rho mg, that is gauge pressure, if you remember. So, that is evident from this U2 manometer. That is the advantage of this U2 manometer. So, this liquid exerts pressure on the mercury column. So, the mercury level in the second arm rises. If this is second arm and if this is first arm, there is a fall in the level of mercury here. There is a rise in the level of mercury in the second arm because pressure P1 here is greater than pressure P2 here. So, as a result, the high density liquid like mercury rises up. Let H be the height to which it has raised, so that P1 minus P2, P1 minus P2 becomes equal to H rho m G. That is measured using the open tube manometer. It is called as U-tube manometer. It is not open tube manometer. It is called as U-tube manometer. It looks like U, therefore it is called as U-tube manometer. Manometer is a device which is used to measure gauge pressure. Manometer is a device which is used to measure gauge pressure H rho G. Okay. Now we will apply a Bernoulli's principle to measure the velocity of this fluid flow. Velocity of this fluid flow. Okay. Now applying Bernoulli's principle for this horizontal pipe. You know, it is completely kept horizontal, and although there is a construction here of a very small narrow neck, we take the height of this entire tube as same. The height H1 is equal to H2, so that the difference in potential energy per unit volume is 0. So we get P1 plus half rho V1 square. P1 plus half rho V1 square is equal to P2 plus half rho V2 square. I think you got the point, where V1 is the speed with which it is entering here, V2 is the speed with which it is crossing. Speed with which it is crossing. Now, because we take H1 is equal to H2. When H1 is equal to H2 is taken, then the potential energy term cancels. Now we got the speed at the constriction, speed of the fluid at constriction. V2 equal to A V1 by small a. Speed of the fluid at the constriction. Let us substitute this in this equation. Then, after simplification, we get P1 minus P2 equal to half rho V2 square minus V1 square. Half rho V2 square minus V1 square. Now we will substitute what is the value of V2. If you substitute this, then half rho V2 is A square V1 square, A square V1 square minus A square V1 square by small a square minus V1 square. Yes, that is P1 minus P2. But using the U-tube manometer, we got P1 minus P2 as H rho mg. P1 minus P2 is H rho mg, where you can write rho is the density of incompressible fluid and rho m is the density of high density liquid, density of liquid in the manometer. You can say it is the density of mercury. Rho m is the density of mercury. Now we want to find out what is V1. Take this to this side. That implies 2 H rho mg, right? 2 H rho mg divided by rho is equal to, take out this V1 square common, then it becomes a square by small a square minus 1 into V1 square. Now we can very easily find out what is V1. So that implies you have to take this entire bracket to the left hand side, so that you will get the value of V1 square. So finally we get the flow speed of incompressible fluid flowing through the venturimeter as equal to square root of 2h rho mg upon rho a square by a square minus 1 raised to minus half. Okay, with the values of these diameters and the density of the fluids and the height of the manometer through which the mercury has raised, we can measure the V1. This venturimeter principle has got number of applications. This venturimeter is used to measure the flow speed of incompressible fluids. Especially, you might have seen there is a meter to measure the water flow into our homes. That is actually based on the principle of venturimeter. Next, carburetor. The carburetor is the device used in the automobiles for the proper mixture of petrol with air. Carburetor is again a venturimeter which has a small nozzle through which the petrol and air are properly mixed, so that the air mixed with petrol, when it enters into the engine, it undergoes combustion. When it undergoes combustion, the vehicle starts. So that device is called as carburetor. So carburetor is a device. See the spelling once again. Applications of principle of venturimeter. Carburetor. It's very simple. C-A-R-B-U-R-E-T-O-R. Carburetor is a device used in all the automobiles, especially petrol engines, for the purpose of mixing the air with petrol vapor, for mixing the air with petrol, so that the combustion can take place in the engine. So the carburetor has got a venturimeter with a small constriction. When there is a pressure difference, when the air is sucked in, so it causes a pressure difference which allows the petrol to rise, and this petrol with air is mixed in a proper ratio, and that air mixed with petrol enters into the engine where combustion takes place. Air is required for combustion. Without air, combustion doesn't take place. That is a very important device used in the automobiles called as carburetor. So carburetor works on the principle of venturimeter, that is Bernoulli's principle. In the same way, filter pumps, aspirators, the Bunsen burner used in the chemistry laboratory, the Bunsen burner, even in the burner that is used in the kitchen, Bunsen, and atomizers, atomizers and sprayers used for the perfumes, the deodorant that we use to spray the deodorant and perfumes, they are all using the same principle of venturimeter, that is principle of venturimeter, Bernoulli's principle. Okay. Furthermore on this we will study in the next video. Thank you. Have a nice day.